we go. All right. So welcome to the 2024 webinar series for the superintendents. As my email stated, I would love to have either you, the superintendent, or somebody from your facility on all these webinars. If you can't make it due to all the circumstances that come up in your day, I will record them and I will be posting them and sending out a link to those so that you can watch them again. You can have your staff look at it, or if you weren't able to attend, you can be on there as well. But for those that don't know me, I think everybody does, but I'm Chris Lewis, Director of Agronomy for Landscapes Golf. Our schedule this year, I took it upon myself to really try to let you guys know what was coming. And so you could plan your time, you could pick who should be on these webinars. Each one of these months, I have either one of our regional superintendents that is going to give a presentation, or I have a guest speaker, or a combination of both. So we tried to develop these into points each month where it's going to be relative to what you are actually doing that month. And while you might not learn a lot of new information in each one of these webinars, if there's just one key takeaway you can get, that's my goal. Something to help your operation, maybe an aha moment for you. But if there's any ideas you guys have about webinars or topics related to any of these months, let me know. I would love your feedback. I want to make sure that these are relevant for you and what you have going on. All right, and then a quick welcome to the team. I do apologize if I missed anybody. If I did, I'll get you on the next one. But since our last webinar in October of last year, we've added some new golf courses, or we've had some superintendent changes, and just wanted to welcome everybody to the team. It's great to have you. And if we haven't met officially face to face, we will very soon. But appreciate you being here. I look forward to be part of the team. All right, and I know this gentleman doesn't like any type of recognition, but I've got to share this. He's dropping his head already. I can see him. But a big congratulations out to Doug from Dakota Dunes. He was awarded the Superintendent of the Year for Landscapes Golf Management last year. So we're very, very proud of Doug and everything he's done. I got a chance to tour his property, I can't remember, spring, midsummer last year, and what a beautiful place. I echo everything that his general manager said about him, and no offense to anybody else with bent grass fairways, but they probably are the purest bent fairways I've ever seen in my life. Doug's been at Dakota Dunes for well over 30 years. He grew the place in. He knows that place like the back of his hand. And Doug, we couldn't be more proud of you and all the work you've done for us. I tried to show off your dog a little more than you, if possible, from that picture I found. But again, congratulations. There were I was going to put up all the nominees on here, but there were a lot of nominated superintendents, which I love to see. All of you guys are doing a great job at your facilities, and keep plugging away what you're doing. But Doug, we're very proud of you. Thanks for being here. All right, and one more quick cool thing. I don't know if anybody's using this or have seen this. This is the new USGA GS3 ball. I actually ordered it. I've got it here. I'm going to start testing it once the snow's gone. Here in Colorado, we got about 6 inches of snow last night or the night before. But pretty cool technology. It's supposed to measure green speed, trueness, and firmness, pretty much all in the same rolls. It's rather than having to use your stemp meter and measure out your distance, it does it automatically right into the app for you. It geolocates to where the ball is, so it tells you what greens you rolled and where you did it. As well as it came with this, I don't know if you're able to see it, but it came with like a firmness test device that we're going to try out, and a stemp meter, and then an app to control it. I believe Jeremy Ranch was purchasing one, but they're also still buried in snow, so they probably haven't had a chance to use it either. But in my tech talk, probably next week, I'll talk more about it and show you some real-time results from it. But pretty cool technology. When I tour around this summer and hit your properties, I'll probably bring it with me so that we can check it out. And I don't think it's for everybody, right? It's a pretty pricey tool. But if you have a committee, a greens committee, or a board, or a membership that's really wants to know green speeds and firmness, and it's probably a pretty good tool to use. But Full disclosure, it's about $3,000. That's about 1,800 bucks, I believe, is for the ball and the tools, and then $1,200 a year for a subscription to the app that keeps all the detailed information for you. Once I test it out and see that if it's going to work well for us, I will talk to the USGA and see if there's any type of landscapes agreement discounts we can get on that as well. But cool tool. I love to see all the new technology come out and more updates to come on that. All right. And then, so since it's about that season for most of you, we thought that an aeration talk would be a good topic to jump into and cover just some basic details that you guys already know. But this is more, Joe Haskins is going to share what he's been doing at renditions and the improvement he's seen on his greens. He's kind of changed up his aeration processes since he's been there, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well. But I will pass this over to Joe and let Joe get rolling. So Joe, I'll stop sharing here and should be ready for you to go. There we go.
All right. Good. You guys hear me?
Everything I got good? You. You're set.
Beautiful. All right. Well, let's get through this. Again, my name is Joe Haskins. I'm the superintendent at Renditions Golf Course, going into my 7th season and celebrate my 20th season as a head golf course superintendent in the Baltimore area. For those who don't know where Renditions is, we're located between Washington, D.C. and Annapolis, Maryland, and about 20 miles south of the Key Bridge disaster. So a lot of stuff happening in the Baltimore area. Unfortunately, not all that great stuff. So what makes Renditions unique in a golf destination for a bunch? We do 38,000 rounds annually, with a lot of those rounds coming from golf events. This year we have close to 50 golf events, whether it's a modified shotgun of 40 folks starting at 9 o'clock on holes 11 through 18, with public tee time starting at 7. Pretty much Monday through Friday, the golf course is stuffed by 9:30. So a lot of activity and a lot of stuff to try to get done, with a lot of play out there. In addition to my golf course superintendent role, I'm going into my 2nd season as a regional, where I'm supporting 5 superintendents from the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia through Pittsburgh and then back into Baltimore. So again, Renditions is unique, and I consider it a destination golf course because we have 18 replica holes from venues that have hosted a major championship or more. So going into it, we have holes from Shinnecock. Our bread and butter is Amen Corner and TPC Sawgrass, the Island Green. I know that they don't host a major, but that's some of the more recognizable holes. Our British, here's a hole from Merion. So a lot of features out here. We have, the wicker basket that's out here. Merion is here because in 1930, Bobby Jones won the U.S. Amateur, completing the Golf's Grand Slam. So our tagline is Renditions Golf Grand Slam Experience. Here's a representation of our British holes. So we're owned and managed by Landscapes Golf Management. We were also constructed back in the early 2000s, and they really focused on the details. So these are our British holes, and you can see they really dialed in. So this is single row irrigation down the middle. These are Hunter G90 heads with supplemental Hunter I-25 heads in the rough. You can see I have a stuck head. If you see my cursor, there's a stuck head here. There's a little weeper here by the green, but they're really going for that overseas British look. And this is 36 days without rain. I know I'm off topic a little bit, but just give you a feel for who we are. Again, at Merion, 1930, RTJ won the Grand Slam by winning the U.S. Amateur. So here's the Island Green. One of our bigger events, it's an invitational golf event. It's our local, one of the casinos in our area. They rent the course out on a Sunday afternoon. They do a 12 o'clock tee time with all the amenities and bring out their big whales. And we have a great time for that event. So that's who we are. Very busy golf facility that we try to wrap in. We try to do our golf course maintenance wrapped around a lot of play. So when Chris presented the idea of hosting and presenting a seminar or our best management practice webinar, I wanted to pick a topic that was relevant to the whole audience. I didn't want to talk about annual bluegrass weevils and adulticide and larvicide applications that's just for the Northeast guys. I didn't want to talk about the close to 100 plant protector applications we make out here on all playing surfaces, greens, tees, fairways, rough, fungicides, herbicides. That's a lot of sprays. I know folks out in the West might only do a handful of sprays on their fairways where we're doing 30. So I figured I'd talk about some of our successes involving aerification. So when I started in the summer of 2017, the first thing I did was pull soil samples. And when I got the results back, I was kind of a little shocked to see that our top 1 inch, and that's what I want to focus on today, is just that top 1 inch of the soil profile and what what we're trying to accomplish since the summer of 2017. Those numbers were at 8% in the top 1 inch. The USGA and anything you read recommends anywhere from 2 to 5. So that's what I really want to talk about today is the best management practices and how we were able to go from 8% down to 4.6% in 3 seasons. And I'm sure we could have probably dropped that percentage down quicker. But remember, we have to make sure we don't disturb these putting surfaces for the amount of play and the outings and events that we have out here. So we only can do so much during your traditional spring and fall aerifications. So let's get into it. So I used to dive deep into X, previously known as Twitter, in regards to finding out information, plus networking with other folks. Now I use ChatGPT. This thing's becoming my best friend. Well, that's not really true, but I do use it as a resource. And I put in a simple question: aerification on putting greens. As we all know, improves drainage, compaction, promotes healthy roots. One thing or two areas that it really didn't address was the gas exchange, and then also managing your thatch or your organics. So I asked a different question: should I pull a core or solid punch? And then you can read that. There's benefits to both of them. But what I really wanted to focus on is the last sentence here. The choice between the two methods depends on factors such as conditions of the greens, time of the year, and the specific needs of the turf grass. At the time back in 2017 and moving forward, our specific needs were getting that 8% back down to a manageable 4%, in between that window of 2 and 5%. So then I asked ChatGPT what percentage of organic matter should be in the top 1 inch of putting greens. And there's your range, 2 to 5. So that's where our target is. So we're at 8 in 2017, the summer, going into the fall aerification. And this is what we did to try to get it from 8 back to 5%. And as we all know, we've seen this, the black layer, the thatch layer, all the negatives that are associated with that, with water, plant protectors, fertilizers, plant nutrients getting caught up in here, microbes not being able to eat all that stuff. I'm not USGA or PhD, but 30 years of doing this, I've seen these slides, and so what we did and what worked best for us is we went to the shelf, and I'm sure everyone has a similar picture in regards to the amount of tines they have, but it's like, what do you do? What tine am I going to pull out to go after 8% to try to reduce that amount of thatch in the top 1 inch? And what we decided to go with were the quad blocks. I don't know why they call them quad blocks, because you can fit 10 tines in these. And typically this is what I did for the 5 aerifications that we did to be able to get our numbers down. So we did fall of 2017, 2 in 2018, 2 in 2019. So 5 core aerifications, spring and fall, using this 1/2 inch tine right here on a quad block. So I would put 2 in the front, 3 in the back. We're all familiar with that, right? And I would just target 3 inches down and a 2-inch forward spacing. And that's what we went with. So here, I always pull my soil reports right around St. Patrick's Day, right before our season really cranks up. So you can see this is from last year, right around St. Patrick's Day. We were able to take it from 8. I don't know what I do with the soil reports from 2017. I probably burned them. I'm not too sure, but this is where we're at. We're at 4.6. Still not really where I want to be. I want to get down to 3.5 or into the 3s this year. So that's our goal. So knowing that we were at 8 in 2017, moving forward, we said, what are we going to do? Hopefully you guys can see this. Uh-oh. So, I mean, there's so many varieties of aerification. Oh, I'm stuck. Hold on a second, boys. Uh-oh. All right, here we go. So there's the dry jet, which we did. We solid punched on the greens. That's a Wiedemann Terraspike XF. These aren't my videos. I'm sure you guys follow these folks on Instagrams or on your socials. Really fun stuff to watch. But you can see this is a brand new Wiedemann Terraspike XF. That roller hasn't even touched grass before. Those tines have been in the ground before. But we use this as well out on our greens, tees and fairways to poke deep when we need to. You've never used this machine. This is kind of nuts. I would imagine this is a putting green. I mean, look at the area disturbance. I can't get away with that out here at Renditions, knowing we have to be healed up within 2 weeks for play and to get out of those discounted rates that we offer during aerification. So we can't do anything like this, but this is pretty neat stuff. But what we have done and what we do, and this is from 2017 fall, those 5 aerifications I talked about. This is Miguel Blanco on a Pro Course 648 with those quad tines, 1/2 inch tine, 2 inch forward spacing, 3 inches down. We would pull a core. You can see back here on Amen Corner, there's the scoreboard back here. So this is 11. This is hole 12, the par 3. A crew back here doing cleanup work. You have a pro pass over here ready to throw some sand down. Tremendous amount of labor, as we all know, but doing what we have to do to be able to get that 8% down to something manageable. You know, in the Mid-Atlantic, going into a summertime at 8% is nuts. Very soft greens, big ball marks, everything gets caught up. Thunderstorms, as we all know, it's just a bad playing surface. Mechanical damage as well with the heights we're mowing at and the amount of rolling and top dressing and all that. It's just soft surfaces, you know, could lead to mechanical damage. So we punch core. This is George Thornberry, my assistant, and Juan Gonzalez over here. And we take this sweeper across it. Does a great job. Those holes are clean, ready for sand, but I just hate 6 sets of tires, all this hydraulic fluid in here, fuel going across it. It's a nightmare. But with the limited staff that we have in the spring, we kind of just have to do what we have to do, right? We have to find a way to make it happen. So we made it happen, and this is not my favorite thing to do, but you know, it's what we have to do. Here's my mechanic, Greg Richter, pulling his weight and dragging in the sand. So what we do typically in the spring and fall is we're closed for the day. We'll aerify on Monday, the course is completely closed. And then the following day, Tuesday, we block the tee sheet until noon. So we have a day and a half to be able to get everything we need to get done. And, you know, we want to give ourselves wiggle room for any kind of mechanical hiccups we might have, but Greg does a great job keeping us up and running. Any type of weather issues, typically in the spring when you're aerifying around St. Patrick's Day, you're dealing with frost, not only in the morning, but as you see this is a sunset picture, and frost is starting to reform. So our days are shorter in the spring. So we want to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room, full day, half day afterwards. And then this is our 2x2 in the springtime, back in 2017, 18, and 19, what we were doing. And then everything shifted based off of our soil reports and seeing that 1%, or I'm sorry, that 1 inch and those numbers going from 8 down to 6 and down to 4.6 as we currently are. But things shifted in 2020, in the spring of 2020. I'm sure everyone remembers the confusion going into right around St. Patrick's Day with COVID. You know, the golf course was shut down for 2 weeks. It's unheard of out here at Renditions to not see golfers on this golf course. So, you know, we got together with our team. You know, we carry 6 employees over the off season year round, superintendent, assistant mechanic, foreman, and 2 operators. So there were 6 of us, and we wanted to get as much stuff done with no golf that we could get done. So when the golf did return, everything was polished up, everything was done. But I didn't want to pull a core, and I didn't want to go through the nightmare of shoveling cores and all that with just a handful of folks here. So we decided and elected to change our practices up in the spring of 2020 and went with, again, trying to face what we're trying to accomplish, get these numbers down. We're moving in the right direction. We knew we were up against it with labor, so we went solid. we said, let's put this block in. And this is the setup that we've been using for 9 aerifications now. That's 2 in 2020 all the way up to current. We just aerified our greens March 18th using this tine right here. A solid 1/2 inch tine, 6 inches in length. It's on a 3/8 mount block, 1/2 inch inside diameter for $5.57. So, I'm sure everyone's using whatever you're using, but this is what's worked for us for the last 9 aerifications. And what we would do is we would set the block up. This is actually after aerifying 2 acres of turf. You can see minimal wear on that. The length is still good. Here's a new tine. So they held up really well for us just a couple of weeks ago. And what we do is we'll top dress first. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with this. You probably are doing something similar to this, or maybe you're doing something better. I'd love to hear about it. But this is a Toro, or I'm sorry, not a Toro. This is a ProPass 1800. The John Deere is in first gear, floored all the way, RPMs all the way up. All the settings on the back, the chutes are all the way in the red, wide open. The paddles are set to wide or heavy applications. And you can see I barely have it turned up. I mean, that's a pretty small width there. And we're dumping as much sand as I can get on those greens as possible. Typically, our greens, we have 2 acres of greens. And it's about anywhere from 3 to 4 loads per green. And then after they get top dressed, we aerify them. We poke a hole. And then once we're done poking a hole, and that's that aerifier set all the way as deep as it can go. It's at H. And then our forward spacing is at 2 inches. So I'm trying to drive that sand and that organic as deep as I can. And then we drag it in with the sweep and fill. Remember, labor's tight. You got to get this stuff done. So I'm using whatever I can to be as efficient as possible. I don't have time to hand broom them or do anything by hand. Everything is mechanical. And then this is new for us for this year to really try to hit that goal of 3.5. We're verticutting in 2 directions right after our aerification. We plan to do this in spring and fall. So this is 2 directions on a 45-degree angle. If you're familiar with the sweep or the SUPA system, here's your depth gauge. This can go from 0 to 60 clicks. This currently is at 45 clicks. Typically in our in-season verticutting, we'll have it about 25 clicks just to stand stuff up to get the sand in. You can see on the tires here, you can see the grooves, it's working that sand in. And if you were to catch this with your glove or put a piece of cardboard down, there's a lot of leaf tissue in there. There's, it looks like a lot of sand, but there's a lot of, I don't know if it's not thatch because that thing's not going down like a grating or like a scarifier of some sort. You know what this thing's doing. Then we roll it. And then, after aerification, especially with this unit, it's hard to see your lines. I don't know. This probably got rolled 6 times. It's hard to see where you're going on these greens. But that's our process. We dump sand, we poke a hole, we drag it in, we verticut it. And then we take the Buffalo turbine blower or turbine blower and just blow off any of the thatch and any excess off, right? And then we roll it. And then this is what we're left with. So this was the afternoon. You can see a 2x2 spacing. Aerifier is as deep as it can go, which is what, 4.5 inches maybe. You can see the 45-degree angle of the verticut. And then if you look around the greens, I'm sure you guys can see that depending on what kind of monitor you have, but that's YTIA patch that broke through right before aerification. So we treated that before aerification as well. We're not buried in sand. We had March 15th, we had 163 people out here playing for the Shamrock Open this weekend. Friday, Good Friday, going into Easter, we have close to probably 200 people on the tee sheet moving forward. So we're mowing greens for the first time today, and we're getting a good bit of grass off of them. They're cleaned up really nice. And so that's what we've done to be able to take it from 8%, 5 traditional aerifications where we're pulling a core. We shifted due to COVID and, our numbers coming down to solid punching them, which these things heal up really, really quick. You look at them right now, we're 7-8 days after aerification. by Friday, we'll have those holes rolled closed. They'll be pretty darn close to being good. April 1st, we come off of our winter rates and we go full rate. So that's trying to do is get out of those discounted rates and just try to get healed up. So it's a fine line of, I want to do more and I want to wreck this place and tear it up as much as I can, but also there's a business we're running where we can't do that. So it's a fine line between playability and doing cultural practices like this. And I think we're dancing on it and we're making it happen, and we're seeing the results. So not only are our two cultural practices of aerification critical to be able to get our number down, but what we do during the season. And this is one of the biggest things that I've done for 20 years in this area, and I'm sure everyone's doing that as well. Every 7 days, every Monday, if we have an outing on Monday, we go on Tuesday. We use light applications of sterilized top dressing sand. This is our hole number 2. This is Inverness. You can see it's the morning, how dewy that fairway is. This is wet sand. You can see that streak right there. By hole 3, we worked that sand out. It was wet, sticking to the fender here. But weekly applications of sand top dressing, big time. That's what we do. And then we do bi-weekly. Best management practice for out here is, this is George Thornberry, my assistant. Here's Amen Corner again. We go with a solid tine, size of a pencil, right? This is the pencil from the Graduate Hotel. So if you have these in your desk, that's the size tine we use, and we go as deep as we can based off of the condition of the greens. Sometimes we go 4 inches, 5 inches, how deep we can. Sometimes in August or in July, when grass isn't the greatest and our roots are sucking, we'll go 2-3 inches down. So whatever the grass allows me to do is we're doing. But this goes out in addition to the weekly light top dressings. We're putting this machine out every other week, twice a month. That starts potentially in April, and we'll run that through September. So we'll run this machine 10 to 12 times annually with the venting tines on there. And then when we do, this is one of my favorite things. You can see this is after a rainstorm. This is mid-Atlantic morning, just super wet. The bunker has a little bit of water. Weren't able to get any type of equipment out just because of softness. So to be able to dress the greens up, we've used these tacet brushes just to knock the dew down. But I put this picture in here. This is what we incorporate that light top dressing sand with. I don't want to use irrigation to knock anything down. The only time I want to throw water on these greens is if they need water. So once we have that light application of sand, we use these tacet brushes. Usually one guy can get around in an hour or two. And then this is what it's looking like. You can see the venting holes. Remember, these are in-season practices. Venting holes, a little bit of sand particle in there, and it's great. The morning guys might have an issue with the ball tracking sand, but by the time those 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock groups get through and the surfaces are dry, it's fantastic, no problem. And then what we also do is, I said I don't pull cores, but we do pull cores on a handful of the greens that we know historically really stink. And that would be holes 1, 2, 3, 7, and 17. Bad microenvironments, right? We have fans around 3 of those greens, just tucked in. You remember hole number 2, that's all surrounded by woods, poor air movement. But we started a handful of years ago using these micro tines. It seems like, it's the ninja tine, the samurai tine, the emperor tine. You're familiar with these tines, but we'll pull on just those 5 greens, setting B on the aerifier, and we'll go anywhere from 3 to 2.5 inch forward spacing, and just pull a little bit forward to give those greens a little bit of relief in this transition mid-Atlantic area. It's really tough to grow grass, especially with the amount of play and only 2 acres of grass, only 2 acres of greens. These have been a big help. And then here, everyone's seen these. This is I pulled off the JRM presentation. Here's their Emperor tines. These things are fantastic. A lot of the drawback on this is how expensive they are and they don't last. I wouldn't do all 18. I just don't have time to do all 18 greens. All 18 greens wouldn't need it. It's just those handful of greens. So 2 sets of these will last me all summer long. And then just a little bit more information. Very busy slide here, but you guys have all seen this, I'm sure. And then I just received this morning. So I put this slide in, and this was pulled 321. Actually, they received it on 321. I pulled this on 315. This is my soil mechanics, my physical properties. We've been doing this since 2020. and I'm at 4.2% in that top inch. So I went from 4.6, and I only do this once a year. So 4.2. So I know I'm going to be able to hit that 3.5, maybe even 3% in the top 1 inch by October. And that's our goal. So, I just focus right here. I don't need to focus here. I don't feel, I don't know. I don't think I need to. I don't have anything. I got 1.1% organics in there, right? The water's moving and down 4. I don't need to go very deep. So all my action when I aerify or poke a hole or whatever I'm doing, I'm just trying to manage this area. And I know the USGA is even saying the top 6 millimeters they have soil testing on, which is the top 1/4 inch. So like right in here is what they're really dialing in. I'm not there yet, um, but I'm happy with this 4.2 right in the range, and then it's only going to get lower. So that's what I got. Just some of their aerification practices and some of the success we've had at a very busy golf course and how we're able to get it done around all the play, the in-season practices. Like I said, that light top dressing and that venting, I won't. I mean, if I interfere with play, it is what it is. But I can't afford not to do that kind of stuff out here. We're sand based, A4 greens, 38,000 rounds, and it's pretty much season long. The golf course is only closed 4 days out of the year, Christmas and the 2 days for aerification plus the 2 half days. So those are the only days that are closed. So that's what I got. So with that, just want to say thank you. And here's Amen Corner. That's number 12, our number 7, going into the par 5, number 8. That's middle of July right there. So um, this green, it's really temperamental. They've lost this green a bunch in the past, and fortunately, we haven't had any issues with turf loss on this. A ton of shade in the wintertime. Right in the back, it's all pine trees, loblollies to replicate what you see down in Augusta. And unfortunately, that's where the sun's rising as well. So this green, come October through now, it's all shaded in the winter. You only put the pin right here because that's the only little glare of sun. I can't cut any of these trees behind it down. Love to, but you can't cut those trees down because that's the theme we're going with. So with that, I just say thanks, and hopefully, one question I did have for you guys is where's everyone getting their tines from? Are you guys getting them from Toro, R&R, JRM, or is there a different company that we need to think about getting tines from or sourcing from?
If you guys can maybe jump in the chat and type in your answer, if you can get
I
there, who
will.
you buy your tines from. And I think the reason Joe asked that one is, is it worth us going trying to talk to GRM or another company to see if we can't get some sort of corporate pricing there? But I know a lot of people use GRMs, and a lot of people use Toros, and just be interested to see what everybody's got. So I gotta let's see. You already kind of covered turf types. There are you same type of grass, tees, fairways, rough, greens across the entire golf course?
We're bent grass, greens, tees, and fairways. A4 on the greens, and I'm not sure. Shame on me not knowing. I just don't have any information. I'm sure I could ask somebody at Landscapes what they planted out here on the tees and fairways. And then it's just a hodgepodge in the rough. You can see right here behind George's head. There's a lot of bent grass contamination in here, but it's primarily what the turf. Our desirable rough is turf type tall fescue, but you have a ton of common Bermuda grass that's encroached over the years. You have POA, you have ryegrass, you have everything out here in the Mid Atlantic. It just loves to grow. I'm going to stop sharing this, Chris.
Yep, that's fine. Does anybody have a question for Joe before I cover a couple of little topics on my own?
Yeah, I have a question for him.
Fire away, Jared.
So I know you said it was roughly when you were aerating on the verticutter 40 clicks. Do you know the depth, like in measurement? We have a different system for the verticutters.
It's 45 clicks.
45
it's
clicks.
like the tip of the screwdriver. I don't know. That's
Okay.
probably not telling you much. It's like 1/4 inch. I mean, you're definitely putting a little groove in there. It's not like a grading where you can actually separate it or do any of that. It's putting a little groove. I didn't want to get too aggressive, knowing that playability And then also it went from 70 degrees down to 20 degrees in a week's time. So I didn't want to get too aggressive. But in the fall time, I'll click that thing all the way down and go as deep. On that super system, it has a little thing where it says Scarify or Verticutter for your depth measurements. But no, I don't know. It's leaving the groove.
Jared, I was always really scientific in my settings on my verticutters. Is I would set it as low as could go until the mower stalled, and then I'd bring it up a little bit. You know, and then everybody's a little different, right? They've got the gauges, and you know, up there at 3 crowns, you know, I think that's you could go as deep as you could get. I think it'd be really good for you. Any other questions for Joe?
Yeah, we've got a question.
Fire away.
How do the verticut reels withhold after top dressing?
They're great. That super system that has the carbide tip on it, I haven't had to change those blades, and I'm using that thing 2 times. I'm using it about 6 times a year, and it's always running through sand. You see that heavy sand that it's running through. Those tips are fine. You know, that depth adjustment is key to be able to raise them up and down, but they're not worn out. Those carbide tips work really well. So I've been here since 2017, right, using that thing. So that's 7 years. I don't know. It's gone out a ton of times, but we haven't had to replace those cassettes. It's not like the VC60. The VC60, which we use on our fairways and tee boxes, we replace those things annually. And we're verticutting our fairways 5 times a year, so twice in the spring, twice in the fall, and over to off season. And we'll get 30 acres of fairways. We'll get 1 season, 5 verticuts on 30 acres of fairways before we have to change those up. But those are going down a little bit deeper. But those carbide tips, they seem to be fine.
If you've never used a carbide tip before, the first time you put it on your surface, whether it's greens, tees, fairways, it's going to throw some grass. It can be, I don't know, a little scary sometimes when you do it. We had some on what a Graydon tractor pull behind, and man, that thing was throwing rooster tails of turf. But you can almost hear that turf just breathe a sigh of relief when you do it, and just blow it all off, mow it, roll it, and it's good to go.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Joe?
Joe, this is Jake. I'm assuming because you're doing solid tining on greens for the most part, except for those 5, you're doing the same thing on tee boxes and greens. You're staying away from pulling cores there too, or do you have a different practice?
Great question, Jake. Different practice on tee boxes. We'll do everything on a tee box with the amount of play we have out here. Last week, or it might have been this week. No, it was last week. We pulled cores. So we pulled cores. We used the time block that holds 4 tines in it, times 6, and we pulled cores, drug them in, blew off the thatch. This off season, we'll take our Wiedemann TerraSpike XF, and we'll go down 10 inches down into the ground. Anything I can do, poke a hole, pull something out. It's all based off of the labor that we have, the condition of the grass, but we're doing it all on the tee boxes. We're doing everything we can: solid punching, verti draining, verticutting, pulling cores, dragging them, blowing them. So I think what we just did last week, it's going to be it until we go in solid punch, probably in May, with a 10-inch deep tine. And then on fairways, same thing. We're limited with the amount of equipment out here that we have, but we just were able to purchase a Redexum Verticore 1600. So we've aerified pulling cores with that a couple of times on 30 acres of fairways. They get verticut, like I said, 4 to 5 times annually. And then that Wiedemann TerraSpike XF is out there as much as I can get it out there. So the process on tees and fairways is a little bit more aggressive than on greens.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. And I think with, you know, a lot of your guys' facilities, and we got guys on this call that do 40,000 rounds plus, and we've got guys on this call that do 6,000 rounds a year, right? So everybody's golf course is going to be a little bit different with how you aerify, but don't be afraid to change it up. You know, I've just with my experience of talking to a lot of you, and Bryce isn't on the call. He's on a little vacation right now, but you know, here at the Broadlands, we're one of those 40,000 round plus places. He does all 18 greens in one day because we have to, right? And that's, he changed it up. Matt Whalen, I think he's on the call too. He was here for a little while. You know, it's multiple aerations of just the needle pencil tines every year with a pretty heavy top dress. And that seemed to help us out. But again, if, you know, don't be afraid to change it up. If you've done the same thing forever and you're not seeing the results, then try some needle tining, try a bigger tine, pull the core, solid tine. If you want to debate and have questions about it, talk to me, talk to one of your regionals, talk to anybody else on this phone call or on this Zoom call. Use your resources and love to help you with whatever struggles you run into with aeration. But let's see what else. I think that's about all I got. Anybody have any other questions? Any comments?
Hey, Chris, is the sand we're top dressing with on greens and tees and fairways the same, or are we doing different on fairways and tees as we are greens?
Most places, Jake, that's a good question. It's different on your greens than it is anywhere else. Typically, guys are using USGA quality top dressing sand. Some guys are using ultra fine. Some guys are using kiln dried. Everybody's a little different. But I know when you're top dressing tees and fairways, for the most part, guys are just using maybe lower quality sand just to get that in the profile. That profile is not quite as finicky as a greens profile, and you're not really as worried about sealing up the profile or anything else there. But good question. And it's cheaper too. It's a lot cheaper to use that bunker sand or other types of sand out there on your tees and fairways.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
And so it looks like in the chat, JRM, Toro, R&R are the three folks or
Yep.
companies that we're buying tines from.
Awesome.
CTI.
Yep. No, I appreciate you guys doing that. I appreciate your chiming in on this and your participation. We had 43 participants, probably our biggest participation of any of these webinars. So let's keep it up. I know that summer's coming. Your busy season's coming for all of you, and it will be tricky to get on these calls, but that's why we sent out that calendar reminder for the whole year so you can plan around it. And let's try to get at least one person from your facility on there. And I appreciate it. Reach out if you have any questions, and thanks for all that you guys do.
One more thing,
rest of your
Chris,
week.
before
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
one more thing before everybody goes. Do you guys have in general, anybody on the call, do you guys have this is from an operational standpoint, do you guys have a good video, a good narrative, or anything that we can provide for newsletters for our members, for our guests that really show the process and the benefits? We go through this every year. How do we communicate why we do this? We know why we do it, but the golfers don't. So anybody got good suggestions on that? A good narrative, a good video, good whatever we can use?
Yeah, we covered that a little bit at the superintendent conference this year. Scott Wellman with videos that the times of the newsletter, right, are kind of gone for the most part for this information. Members, everybody else likes the videos. So those videos that Joe, I know he robbed those from a couple Instagram pages, but some of the other ones, I mean, everybody knows how easy it is to take a video, right? Take your phone out, take 10, 15 seconds of a video, and share that with your GM or marketing director or whoever that is that works with that, with a little clip and some information on what you did, and they can get that out to your membership. And those are the most watched videos on any of the advertisement that we do across our portfolio. Maintenance videos are the #1 watched videos. So you guys might think it's pretty boring to watch an air fire go across the green or a top dresser spin out sand. Your members, your players love that stuff. That is, they can't get enough of it. You know, I'm guilty of sitting on Instagram and watching a guy pressure wash a driveway, right? I mean, that's like, you think one of the most boring things in the world, but I can't get enough of that. It makes me want to go pressure wash my driveway. Or the guys cutting down the giant overgrown yards. Guys, you know, I watch that. I'll get lost for hours. Look down and it's 11 o'clock at night and I've been lost watching guys cut grass. And I see it every single day. So use that to your advantage. Share your message. It lets your members and players kind of know who you are, and when they see you out on the golf course and all the hard work you're doing. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that, Jake. All right, awesome. Appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Reach out if you need any help. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Nice job, Joe.